It's 3 steps. Ask yourself, what is the worst that can possibly happen? The reason for this is a lot of people are thinking about what might happen. It's often the uncertainty that is what's really going to kill them. So if you think about the worst case scenario, and the second step is then prepare to accept it if you have to. So if you can accept the worst case scenario and then move forward from there, then, even in most cases, it's not going to be the worst case scenario, right?
Right.
You're going to be much better off. And the third step is then calmly proceed to improve on the worst. So you think about what is the worst that could happen. Then it's like, okay, if that does happen, I'm okay with that. I can deal with that. Then you go to work. You take action to make sure that, or to try to stop that worst thing from happening. What can you do in order to do that? The taking action part is really an important one. So many people just caught into these loops of worrying that it's just over and over again, and until nothing happens, which is usually what happens. What people are worrying about, usually nothing happens. It's just destroying your immune system, bringing down your health, also your mental state. It's causing all sorts of problems. So don't do it.
That's awesome, man. I like that. Training your brain. It sounds like you're just talking about just kind of shift in people's perception and training their brain to automatically go towards that direction rather than the direction it's used to going.
Yeah, I mean, perception is a huge thing. There's an old story of a man in China, and his son gets drafted to go, or let me think the start of this one. I'm going to butcher it a little. A wild horse comes into his yard, and all these people around him are exclaiming, "Oh, you're so lucky that you got this horse. You're so lucky." And he's saying, "We'll see." So he's just sort of detached from the outcome. Then what happens is the wild horse starts eating all of his vegetables in his garden. He breaks down fences and everything. And all these people, "Oh, you're so unlucky, that this horse came." And then he's like, "We'll see." So the next thing that happens is that the horse ends up breaking his son's leg. And they're like, "Oh, you're so unlucky." And he goes, "We'll see." Then the draft occurs, military action, and his son is saved from going off to war and most likely dying because he has a broken leg and it'd be no good. And these people are exclaiming, "Oh, you're so lucky." So it's all about your perception of it.
Right.
But who knows what's going to come next?
Right. That's fantastic. I have a saying that I use over and over again, and that's everything happens for a good reason, and it is your responsibility to find that reason. Because everything that has ever happened to me bad, when I busted my knee to pieces both times, when my wife had to go through the cesarean section thing rather than the natural birth we had planned, every single time something bad happened, I could always find something good in that, some sort of life lesson that I could have never, ever learned any other way. So that's so powerful.
Yeah, this may sound very odd to people, but my mom dying of cancer was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Right.
And it's literally, there's no grief involved in that anymore because I've done things. I study a whole bunch of different techniques, neuro-linguistic programming, emotional freedom technique. I've done a lot of these things. These are also great tools for really helping you to change those perceptions that you may have to help yourself run your brain. Also, a whole lot else going on that can really, in many direct and supportive roles, help support your health.
Awesome, man. Well, let's do a little lightning round, and then let's call this one a day. All right. So let's just chip away at it. Let's just go, bam. This is why you should do it. Here's what it is. Boom. And let's just do a few more things for people that they can use, actionable steps for today.
Right. Okay. I'm a big fan of testing. If you can go out and get numbers, that's huge. Blood testing can give you lots of good numbers. Getting your hair tested for minerals is going to give you some good numbers. You can do things. I recently got tested for gluten sensitivity. It came back positive, which I wasn't sure about. And since actually getting rid of gluten in my diet, which can be a great thing for people to try even without getting testing, that has actually improved my health. I used to have bad breath quite often. My girlfriend always told me so. And I tended to be flatulent as well after eating. It didn't really seem to matter what I ate, but actually those have gone down dramatically after I cut out gluten for quite some time. And I know you have had some great experiences doing that as well. Yeah. Some other stuff to look at: heart rate variability training. Look up the HeartMath Institute of California. They have some devices that can plug into your iPhone, but you can actually train your heart to be able to be more varied and to be in coherence with your brain waves as well, which have a wide range of benefits as well. So that's something to look at. Getting a pet. This can be a very interesting one. It makes sense to people that have pets. People that don't have pets, they may not think of it. But actually, did you know that petting your pet releases oxytocin in yourself and in the animal?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I have a great little dog that I love to pet. And when I do, I feel great.
Yeah, oxytocin is known as like the bonding hormone. It's also stimulated when you make deep eye contact, especially with someone of the opposite sex. And also it's released during orgasm when you have sex. So a lot of different ways of getting this hormone, but this
And
hormone helps you to
birth.
feel good.
And birth. Don't forget about
And
birth.
birth. Yes, but petting your pet can help with that. So
Awesome, man.
as far as some supplemental stuff I mentioned, something most people are chronically deficient in is vitamin D. You know, if you can get sunlight, that's great. I'd like to work out outside when I can, because then I can take my shirt off, get some sunlight if it's sunny. You can be barefoot on the ground. You're getting a better quality air than what you would get indoors. So there's a lot of benefits if you can get that. But most people don't get enough sunlight, and even, you know, in certain climates, you certainly can't. So getting a supplemental amount, that's going to be huge for your health. It does so many different things in your body. Another one is magnesium. Great mineral that we need quite a bit of that isn't found a whole lot in our diet. You can get a fair amount in greens, and no one eats enough of those.
Right.
It's also can be found in chocolate, which is why a lot of people, when they're stressed, they go to chocolate. Magnesium is important for relaxing the muscles in the body, as well as a whole bunch of other ones. So taking some supplemental form of magnesium is going to do a lot of good for a lot of people. I specifically recommend a spray-on kind, because magnesium absorbs better through the skin than it does orally.
Oh, that's a good tip. Awesome. All right, let's just do a couple more, and then we'll call it a day.
All right.
Make them the good ones.
Okay, here we go. If you want to live a longer life, there's one thing that is known across every species to work for that, and that is caloric restriction. Now, eating less food isn't something a lot of people want to do. There's a way you can get the benefits of that without actually doing it, and that is intermittent fasting. You don't need to necessarily do these plans like are promoted for diet and weight loss, but doing some sort of intermittent fasting where you're occasionally fasting, whether this is a 24-hour period once a week, which is an old standby way of doing it recommended by Paul Bragg, or you can do it. I do it most days in the morning. I don't eat. I actually take bulletproof coffee, which works well for me. But some periods of time, in addition to just when you're sleeping, where you're not eating, is going to help trigger things in your body to be able to live longer and be healthier. You have to think that when you're always eating, the digestion is one of the most energy intensive processes in the body. So if you can not eat for a little while, all that energy can go to other things like boosting up your health.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, well, let's just do one more, Logan. And I think that for the last one, I want to ask you, like, what's something that you've been tinkering with recently that you've noticed has had a big effect on the way you feel?
Medicinal mushrooms.
Oh, there you go. All right. Tell us a
So
little about
I
those.
mentioned taking herbs in the morning, and actually that's actually what I've been drinking throughout the day, a specific mushroom called chaga. Medicinal mushrooms, most people haven't heard of these. If they're familiar with mushrooms, it's either the psychedelic kinds or, you know, the
The
common
salad kind.
mushrooms that they eat with on top of pizza, the white button mushrooms. But mushrooms, the medicinal class of mushrooms, which includes reishi, chaga, agaricus, shiitake, maitake, whole bunch of other ones. These have some of the most beneficial immune system supporting nutrients in there, beta glucans, different polysaccharides. The vast majority of them are immunomodulating, meaning that they'll work intelligently with your immune system to boost it up if it needs boosting, to take it down if it needs to be taken down, as is in the case of autoimmune disorders, for instance. Whole bunch of other benefits as well. So getting on these medicinal mushrooms can be one of the best things you can do. It's different than those supplements I mentioned before, like vitamin D and magnesium are critical for health. You actually need to get those through your diet, get them some way. You don't have to take medicinal mushrooms. I just highly recommend that you should, because they can do a whole lot for your health.
Which one should you start with, Logan?
Good question. It sort of depends on the benefit, but in general, the one that I mentioned specifically in my new book is reishi. Reishi is probably the most classic of the medicinal mushrooms, just completely revered in China and Japan. They have tons of artwork of it over the Shaolin temples and different temples in the area. It's known as the mushroom of immortality, great anti-aging, those immune system benefits. There's so much there. I mean, I was thinking about this today. A lot of top herbalists will say if everyone in the world was on reishi, it'd be a whole lot better place. One thing that I've noticed, I feel like it kickstarted my evolution in a way when I started messing with these different medicinal mushrooms and some of the other tonic herbs. Would you say the same? Because I know we got started around the same time.
Yeah, I guess you could. I never thought about it like that, so it's kind of hard for me to think about that right on the spot. But I certainly made some very large shifts in my life when I started.
Yeah, it can really help support yourself in a wide range of ways, just beyond health, I would say, especially if you go with the wild varieties, because they have sort of the energy of nature. They seem to be, mushrooms are actually more genetically identical to us than many other species of creatures that we might think are actually closer. They seem to work symbiotically in certain ways when we consume them. It's some fascinating research that has been done in these fields. So I would definitely recommend people take a look at that for more information.
Well, as you can see, Logan is a plethora of information that you guys can apply. I'll post a link below the show. Logan's got a couple of books now. He's got one that's 101. Go ahead, you tell.
101 Simple Steps to Radiant Health. This covers a lot of the stuff that we covered earlier in the call. It really is some simple steps. You're going to read through it, say like, oh, I'm doing many of these, but there's some other areas where you aren't. The cool thing about these books is if you get one tip that makes a big difference. For instance, one person told me, oh, not sleeping with a pillow was huge for me. You know, I used to have neck pain before, now I don't. So if you can get one tip, that can be worth the price of the book. But then I just recently finished up the sequel to that book, some 4 years later, 101 Advanced Steps to Radiant Health. Here I go into a lot more advanced stuff. I threw a couple of those at you here. Like I said, it's a whole lot of tips, and it's really short and sweet, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. You don't need to have a PhD in chemistry or anything like that in order to be able to understand this. Just go in there, pick a tip, try it out, see how it works for you.
Awesome, man. I love actionable steps and simple stuff like that. Well, Logan, I got to ask you this, even though I've asked you it before, right? You've got a successful online business. You actually are starting an herb company right now that's becoming very successful. You're one of the strongest guys I know. You're obviously very intelligent. So what's your secret to success, Logan?
Well, I mentioned it in this call. Really, what I feel has accelerated, but
is it the mushrooms?
A lot of things contribute, yes, but I would say learning how to run your brain. If you can figure out how to really figure out the things you want, then how to get them, which a lot of it goes on in here, you know, getting around those stumbling blocks, using the techniques I mentioned like NLP and EFT work great for this if you know how to use them. This stuff will allow you to become successful in any area of your life if you choose to go forward with it.
Awesome, man. Well, Logan, thank you so much for sharing those tips with us. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a blast.